It's Friday, February 24. In the headlines in local news, $160 million allocated for land titling project. In business news, Saturday operations for tax offices across Jamaica. In the region in Barbados, energy efficiency at top priority. Internationally, UN tells Russia to leave Ukraine. And in sports, this year's Gibson McCook Relays expected to be the biggest one yet. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Maya Chung. Members of the public are being warned about a social media scam advertising job fairs for overseas opportunities. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security in a press release says, quote, "We are aware of numerous persons who have responded to these advertisements and paid fees only to realize that the individuals are operating illegally," end quote. Persons are being urged to visit the ministry's website at www.mlss.gov.jm to confirm the list of legitimate employment agencies which are licensed to operate in Jamaica before engaging with employment offers. Persons may also contact the ministry's employment agencies unit at 876-676-5806 or via email at employmentagencies@mlss.gov.jm for information. The Labor and Social Security Ministry says it has established a hotline at 876-553-5457 to facilitate reports of persons who have been scammed via WhatsApp. In the meantime, the government's electronic land titling project is to continue in the upcoming fiscal year from an allocation of $160 million. The project aims to improve the efficiency of the land registration process from the point of application through to issuing of a legally binding proof of title. Details of the allocation are contained in the 2023-2024 estimates of expenditure now before the House of Representatives. The anticipated fiscal target for the new fiscal year is to finalize the award of contract to the vendor selected for the supply of the electronic land titling database software. The project began in April 2021 and is to run until March 2027. It is being implemented by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Approximately $1.6 billion is estimated for fiscal year 2024-2025 if necessary. Itinean Nathaniel Henry is a community advocate in Jonestown, Kingston. He believes that service above self is a worthy lifetime achievement. His work in his neighborhood is proof of this belief. That's why he is a community hero. Simone Absalom Gale visited Mr. Henry and has his story.
He grew up in Hannahtown but moved to Jonestown in 1988. He describes those years as challenging with violent and continuous gang wars.
You will have seen a lot of murder, a lot of shootings, a lot of friends were lost, and it was just tense and even peace-treated. The craziest thing was we used to have peace-treated dance, and that's when the peace used to broke.
He says his father was there on important occasions, but his mother was a constant supporter to him and his siblings. To Itinia, education was the only way out.
It was basic school, which was Edith Dalton Basic School, and then I went to Shettle Park Primary. I got a scholarship to go to Lanneman's Prep. This is the one. And then against all the odds, with the violence, everything that was going on, I chose education, focus on education. I was able to get a scholarship and I went to the Campion College, best school ever. And that's where I met my best friends, Mr. Spencer, Shonda Bruce, and it changed my life. Then I got a youth scholarship again to go to university in Cuba. This is probably why I talk so fast, because Spanish say me. And then I came back join the corporate world.
The goal of using education to secure his future was attained. So why venture into volunteerism?
I started out with the CDC under Luke George Cook in 2011. And I even was doing, back in 2010, at youth clubs when I was gainfully employed at J. Reneview. I was assistant supervisor there. And when I left Reneview, I was there not doing anything. And so what we want to tell young people is that if you're there not doing anything, you could also volunteer your time, and then based on that, it opened doors for you to get access to work, because some of these persons who are helping with charity work are actually persons from the business sector, and they see that you're committed to the cause, that there's no money involved, you're willing to work, you will open doors. I started as an avenue where I could get work by being around business people, so I started it. And I actually started to enjoy it, because the joy on people's face when you help them, it's a selfish reason, but it makes me feel good inside.
Mr. Henry has been a part of several community development initiatives over the years, but some have been more memorable than others.
So we're doing a project now called Increase the Peace. USAID funded, so this is the shirt. And in the project, we're basically trying to get behavioral changes from at-risk youth between the age of 10 up to 29. And so we look at a 10-year-old girl, and so you look at it's about 4 months, so we're going to track their behavior changes. So this is a girl coming to us, and it started out, we having a computer marathon with the Lesma Ellis Foundation. That was held on January the 7th. And when we have the function, we're giving out biscuits, sweets, whatever it is. And this girl joined the line, and when the shopkeeper called me, and the shopkeeper was telling me what happened, and I saw it, the little girl was able to rejoin the line like 10, 12 times, get a case of stuff, I had the idea to sell it back to the shopkeeper for profit, I kept on going back in. It's like, sorry, we don't get none. And that's dishonest, that's wrong with everything. And give credit to the shopkeeper who kind of refused to buy for her because she knew it was ill-gotten gains. But then the genius of what she was doing to kind of hustle mentality. And it's like, you're 10 years old, you're on the wrong path of thinking, but there's something there that you want to earn money and thing. And so that's how we started negative. So now we end up going to downtown to National Art Gallery, which was 2 weeks ago, recently. And we're going to National Art Gallery. I was the person who was driving. I carried her and she was in the car. And we stopped at a stoplight and there was a lady, old lady, begging money. I was like, don't have any money on me or anything. And I was going to drive off. And she said, no, sir, stop. The same little 10-year-old girl. And she was like, she can't get $100 a year. I have $100 for me lunch money, but she can't get it. Everybody was blowing the horn because we're at this green light. And I said, yo, we're breaking the law. She said, sir, yes, but it's for the right reasons. And that's the transition. So she moved from doing the wrong thing for the wrong reason. And now she's doing the wrong thing again, so it's still a progress, but she's doing it for the right reason. So make them wait, sir, the right reason I do it for. And I was so proud of her.
Well, Mr. Nathaniel Henry, as we call him, the boss. Very, very hardworking, industrious. He's one of the persons that put in the extra effort and the mile to get all the... Seeing that we are in a volatile era, he always tries to get projects and programs to get the youths together, if it's even once or twice per week, because, the idle, so they will find things that won't be beneficial to anybody. So he has programs, he has a computer program, and once a week we have classes on Saturdays, two sessions, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So, and Mr. Henry is I don't know him do it, but he's always the first person here and always the last person to leave. And he goes the extra mile just to get everything going.
It's the best feeling ever that the community is buying in. We're very segregated, different from the side you come from, even though everybody should be under one banner. But for different reasons, social, there are different implications where even gang warfare, everybody have a side. But everybody is united around me and around the project. So I would never complain about the support that we've gotten.
Several times when he was getting funding from the USAID program, he was back and front with us. Dedication, fervor and zealousness just to get the project approved in order to have this program run in his community. So his dedication should be commended because he goes above and beyond.
And it's now time for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Tax Administration Jamaica is reminding the public that it will open select tax offices this Saturday, February 25, and every last Saturday of the month for the remainder of the 2022-2023 financial year to provide taxpayers with a convenient option of doing business. The following tax offices will operate this Saturday between the hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. St. Andrew Constant Spring, Montego Bay FCJ Building at 11 to 12 Onman Way, Montego Bay Freeport, Mandeville, Savannah Lamar, and St. Anne's Bay. The Portmore Tax Office will continue its usual weekly Saturday operations with adjusted business hours of 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, February 23, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.97. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.78. The pound sterling traded for $187.99, and the euro sold for an average of $167.55. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 1,395 points. The junior market index advanced by 17 points. The combined market index declined by 1,135 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 1,325 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 104 stocks, of which 41 advanced, 41 declined, and 22 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and CAC 2000 Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Weber Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were Barita Investments Limited, Siboney Group Limited, and Dollar Financial Services Limited. The overall volume leaders were Fosrich Company Limited with over 2 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares, and Image Plus Consultants Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Micro Index Fund was the only active security posting a volume of 440 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Cave Shepherd and Company Limited was the volume leader with 4,000 shares. They were followed by First Caribbean International Bank, which traded over 1,000 shares. In regional business, a delegation from the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, met with the St. Kitts and Nevis government recently to discuss several initiatives after they became the first CARICOM country to sign an agreement with the African-based financial institution. Andre Huey has that report.
The government of St. Kitts and Nevis met with chairman of the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, Professor Dr. Benedict Orama. A press release from the government said Dr. Orama highlighted the historic agreement between St. Kitts and Nevis and Afreximbank to forge deeper economic, cultural and diplomatic ties with the Caribbean and the African continent. Of note, Dr. Orama underscored future initiatives for St. Kitts and Nevis on renewable energy, industrial parks, advantages for agriculture, enhancing trade with avenues like the Intra-African Trade Fair, and positively exploiting the country's vibrant creative economy. On February 17th, St. Kitts and Nevis became the first CARICOM nation to sign an agreement with Afreximbank when Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew signed the Memorandum of Understanding during the 44th meeting of the Conference of the CARICOM Heads of Government in the Bahamas. On Monday, the Cabinet also welcomed representatives from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the ECCB, to discuss the legislative agenda for the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, ECCU, which remain outstanding in St. Kitts and Nevis to date. Mr. Timothy Antoine, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, relayed the importance of the timely passage of legislation to support regional economic development. Dr. Terence Drew gave the ECCB the assurance that the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party administration would bring the requisite outstanding legislation to Parliament in quick order. The Cabinet will be engaged in a two-day leadership and governance training workshop on February 23rd and 24th. The training will cover promoting good governance, effective public sector management, ethics, integrity, and leadership competencies. This training will be facilitated by Dr. Roger Koranteng, Advisor and Head of Public Sector Governance at the Commonwealth Secretariat. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
In international business, Wall Street ended topsy-turvy as investors grappled with how interest rate policy might affect the U.S. economy.
The main stock indexes closed a topsy-turvy Thursday in positive territory, with the S&P 500 snapping a 4-session losing streak, as investors grappled with how interest rate policy might affect the U.S. economy. The Dow rose about 0.3%, the Nasdaq climbed about 0.7%, and the S&P gained about 0.5%. Stock markets have been volatile this year, pulling back in February after a strong January as investors try to figure out what the U.S. Federal Reserve will do with interest rates. CapTrust Chief Investment Officer Mike Vogelzang says in this era of higher rates, investors should look toward traditionally defensive sectors.
There's going to be a benefit and there's going to be opportunity in the more durable materials, basic materials, energy complex. Healthcare is an interesting place for us, continuing to be an interesting place, and some of the industrial stocks, machine stocks. Defense is a little expensive, so it has a very, very different tone than we did in the years leading up to 2022. The market was led by a completely different group.
One tech standout Thursday, NVIDIA. It surged 14% to its highest level in more than 10 months. After the company forecast quarterly sales above estimates and reported a surge in the use of its chips to power artificial intelligence services. Netflix fell 3% after saying it has cut prices of its subscription plans in 30 countries. And Moderna fell after the vaccine maker reaffirmed its annual sales forecast of $5 billion for its COVID-19 vaccines, despite its fourth quarter sales exceeding estimates.
In market data for oil prices extended gains for a second session as the prospect of lower exports from Russia offset rising inventories in the United States and concerns over global economic activity. Brent crude futures rose 80 cents to $83.01 per barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up 43 cents to $75.82. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, the Antiguan government says it is closer to deciding about the removal of the work permits of CARICOM nationals and citizens of the Dominican Republic. ABS News has that report.
Information Minister the Honorable Melford Nicholas provided an update on the ongoing discussions during this morning's post-cabinet media briefing.
The Minister of Labour and Attorney General has indicated that he is in receipt of the report, but he requires an additional week to be able to complete his internal review before presenting it to Cabinet.
Now, after the Attorney General's internal review, the matter will return to Cabinet for a final review before being adopted.
Minimizing emissions from vehicles is one of the key elements of the energy efficiency goals of the Barbadian government, which it intends to achieve by 2030. Minister of Energy and Business Senator Lisa Cummings made the disclosure as she addressed a conference of renewable options. Trevor Thorpe reports.
Barbados has one of the most aggressive renewable energy transition plans in the world, according to Energy and Business Minister Senator Lisa Cummings. And she said government is committed to partnering with the private sector as the country transitions to net zero and expanded business opportunities.
The utilization of transportation to minimize our emissions. We have over 120,000 cars in Barbados that can transition by 2030. What that means also is that there is an opportunity for us to rationalize what that innovation looks like. It creates an opportunity for us to create even more of an expanded business opportunity for companies here in Barbados, not just to be innovators in the technology, but also exporters of the technology to other countries whose transition targets are perhaps behind ours or trying to catch up to where Barbados is.
Minister Cummings also said Barbados has the highest photovoltaic density in the world, and the vehicle-to-grid technology is part of the new focus. Vehicle-to-grid, or V2G technology, is smart charging tech that allows car batteries to give back to the power grid. In essence, it treats high-capacity batteries as not only tools to power electric vehicles, but also as backup storage cells for the electrical grid.
And what that means is that becomes an issue for grid stability. It means that storage solutions like our vehicles, vehicle-to-grid technology become even more important to enable us to reach those targets. The challenge, though, that is important here that I want to perhaps focus my attention on is the important role to be played by the business community, to be played by companies like Goddard's, like Courtesy, and of course in partnership with companies internationally like Nissan. If many of you remember, just a short while ago when we were navigating the COVID-19 pandemic, all of the supplies, all of the vaccines, all of the medications had to be imported into country, and we had any number of procurement challenges.
Managing Director of Nissan Importers Business Unit, Diane Torres, said the initiative is a key component in the transition to a greener world.
You will soon also hear a lot about new technologies that we have for the market, like e-power. So hopefully you already know that we announced last year in June that definitely that technology, which has been in Japan for more than 6 years and has been proven for all these years, is now coming to our markets. So also this is a way for us to bring the electrification closer to our customers. So you will be able to experience very soon what e-power means.
From the Renewable Options Initiative, a new 6-month energy renewable plan will be made public soon. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
The region needs to deconstruct its colonial structures, says Barbados Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kerry Simmons, as he opened the Canada-Caribbean Institute Symposium on Decoloniality, Past, Present and Future Directions. We have more from TTT Live.
Minister Simmons addressed where our colonial systems have left the region with regard to our trade relationships with Canada and the United States.
All that those relationships objectively are paternalistic approaches, not based on genuine economic development thrusts, but a paternalistic approach which is incompatible with World Trade Organization rules on non-discrimination and most favored nation issues.
The minister noted the need to move the region forward was quite obvious in the inability to access vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic.
But we want to be able to engage in a principled manner on robust issues that allow for economic development in a very genuine way and in a very targeted way. So that for the Caribbean, we have spent millions upon millions of dollars building out a core of highly skilled and competent professionals.
Barbados' Foreign and Trade Minister believes as it stands, Caribbean professionals find themselves at a disadvantage when they are as qualified as their Canadian and US counterparts. The 2-day symposium is being held in Barbados.
And in international news, the United Nations General Assembly has voted overwhelmingly in favor of a resolution calling on Russia to withdraw from Ukraine. The US, Ukraine, and the EU had wanted a strong show of unity against Russia on the anniversary of the invasion, but some key nations abstained. Al Jazeera's Shihab Ratansi reports from the UN headquarters in New York.
This non-binding resolution was based on a fundamental principle of the UN Charter. It is against international law for one member state to invade another. Ukraine and the EU wanted as many member states as possible to vote in favor of their draft, and knew from recent history that anything more strongly worded would lose support. And the strategy paid off, with 141 of the 193 members of the UN General Assembly voting in favor, 7 voting against, and 32 abstaining.
The message is clear. It doesn't matter what Russia tries and how it attempts to undermine international order and the coalition in support of Ukraine's territorial integrity, it fails.
These 141 countries reiterated a clear demand to Russia: withdraw. Withdraw immediately, completely, and unconditionally from Ukraine's internationally recognized territory.
As expected, several key non-aligned countries abstained, including China, South Africa, and India. They argued that a resolution that sought to contribute to a lasting peace in the region should focus on achieving a ceasefire, immediate peace talks, and addressing the geopolitical concerns that led to the conflict in the first place.
Boosting or even enlarging military blocs will only undermine regional security and drive peace further away. The final settlement of the Ukraine crisis hinges on abandoning the Cold War mentality and giving direction to and respecting the reasonable security concerns of all countries.
While we take note of the stated objectives of today's resolution, given its inherent limitations in reaching our desired goal of securing lasting peace, we are constrained to abstain.
And even though several non-aligned countries like Nigeria and Indonesia did vote for the resolution, they registered their reservations, criticizing it for not promoting peace talks and conflict resolution. Ukraine, the EU and the US can once again say that a majority of nations at the UN General Assembly has voted against the Russian invasion, even if finding unity on more punitive actions against Moscow has proved more elusive. Shia Bertansi, Al Jazeera, the United Nations.
In sporting news, this year's Gibson McCook Relays are expected to be the biggest yet. The 2023 Gibson McCook Relays will take place at the National Stadium in Kingston on February 25. The one-day track and field spectacle celebrating its 50th year will see 2,100 athletes participating in 43 events. Sprint legend Usain Bolt is the patron for this year's meet. Chairman for the organizing committee, Professor Rainford Wilkes, says based on the feedback he has been receiving, he is expecting an excellent turnout at the National Stadium on Saturday. Pointing to the 60-meter races, he told journalists that prize money totaling approximately $7.7 million will be shared among the finalists in the men's and women's 60-meter races. The winners are set to pocket $1.5 million each. All 8 finalists in both 60 meters events will collect cash prizes. And that's the news on PBCJ. I am Maya Chung. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you for watching.